Hey guys, it is the Fuzzy One with the Blockhead Gaming team here to give you a quick tutorial on Jungle Maokai. Jungle Maokai is personally one of my favorite jungles. He's got some amazing early ganks, and I'm here to show you a little bit about what I do and hopefully make your Jungle Maokai experience a little easier. So, I'm going to show you in this bot match how I do my route and how I do a few of the ganks and what spells I level up in what order. So the first thing is going to be purchases. I get an early regrowth pendant and a potion. I'm going to put that regrowth pendant into a philo stone for the gold per 5, the health regen, and the mana regen. Super helpful when jungling. So, because Jungle Maokai has these awesome saplings, you can actually start at Wraith camps, clear them first, and basically have awesomely fast jungling because you have increased XP. So, you're going to drop your first sapling at about a minute 5 seconds. That guarantees that the sapling will not run out before the minions get there, and that you don't waste too much mana. We're going to use 3 saplings to kill it, drop the second sapling as soon as you can. Now on the third sapling, we're actually going to wait until the camp spawns, so that way we can deal the damage of it falling on them and exploding. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to clear this camp really fast and move over to blue. Now normally at the blue buff with players, you would have a leash from either your mid or your top lane. Because this is bots, we don't have that luxury, but you can still get the idea. So we're going to go over here to the blue camp. I'm going to throw a sapling to kind of leash it to myself and go from there. Personally, I like to smite the golems a little bit early if I'm not worried about a counter jungle. And the reason for that is it allows for smite to come up faster during the golem fight down on bottom. Those golems can actually hurt a good freaking bit, and because of that, I like to have smite up just in case. After I kill these golems here, I'm going to be at level 2. I'm going to take my Q, or my Arcing Smash, as my second spell. I'm going to go from blue golems to wolves, pretty standard. But the cool thing is you'll notice as I'm killing these wolves, the Wraith camp will actually be respawning. So I get to kill it twice, which is a little bit more XP than most junglers and hugely beneficial. So now we're going to go down to the Wraith camp, which has already spawned. We're going to get that XP. This will actually put us already at level 3, which is awesome. So we're going to take a second point in our smash here as soon as we level up. And the reason for this is I'm trying to go with a safe, consistent route. If you see as you're killing wraiths that their mid is kind of overextended, pushing into your guy a little bit, you can take your W at that point and try and go for an early gank. But if it doesn't look very good, grab your Q and be on the safe side. Now as you notice, my smite isn't quite up yet on these golems. So I have two options. I can either save my smite, go for red, and then gank immediately. Or I can go back, buy my Philostone, start getting that gold per 5, and just play a little bit safer, a little bit slower, but still on par because we got that extra XP from wraiths. So I'm going to go ahead and go back, get the Philostone, get some extra potions, and just ensure that I'm going to get red buff, I'm going to be at full health, and I'm going to be an absolute monster when I come out to gank either mid or bottom. I'm going to go ahead and clear the Wraith camp now, just to ensure that I hit level 4. I'm pretty sure I'd hit it from red, but better safe than sorry. So after you get your red buff, you have the option of ganking mid or bottom. Because I don't have boots yet, ganking top lane isn't really an option. If you absolutely have to, you could try and get up there, but it's definitely going to be easier to gank bottom or mid at this point. So hit level 4 and make your decision. Now when you're ganking, a couple things to remember. The easiest way to gank bottom lane is usually from the bushes all the way against the wall, or lane gank as it's called. And the reason for that is there are always wards on bottom lane early in the game, because your support basically does nothing but buy wards. So keep that in mind if you're going to gank bottom. If you're going to gank mid, there's a chance that there's a ward, and that ward is probably going to be in this river bush that I'm walking into right now. But because it's a bot, I know it isn't there. If you're worried about the wards, then come in kind of from the blue buff area on their side, over closer to the turret. And when you come in for your gank, make sure you use your spells in the correct order. You're going to want to Twisting Advance out to kind of warp to them, and then you're going to want to use your Sapling Toss. And the reason for that is, if you can hit them with the sapling, they'll take damage from it being hit and from it exploding which just makes it that much easier and does that much more damage. After that point, you kind of want to walk behind them and do the smash, slowing them and knocking them back into the lane towards your partner. Now on top lane, it's very common that there's a ward, but that ward is probably going to be in the river. So going all the way around from Tribush like I just did is probably going to be the safest and easiest way to gank. It may take a little bit longer, but 15 extra seconds for guaranteeing the gank is probably going to be better. So now I'm going to die to Antibot because I'm absolutely terrible. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and look at the Masteries and the rune pages that I use for jungling Maokai. Okay, so here we have the Masteries that I use when jungling Maokai. Now, when I jungle Maokai, I'm going to be the one initiating for my team. I'm going to be the one tanking and soaking up most of the damage. So I tend to go 0, 21, 9. And the reason for that is I get the increased beneficial stats for armor, resistances, and health, but I also get some increased benefits from the buff durations, which I'm going to be getting while jungling. So the first thing I do is put 3 points in hardiness for the armor, because your magic resistance and your armor are going to become really beneficial late game. I go ahead and put 2 in tough skin to reduce the damage I'm going to be taking while jungling. I put 4 in durability just for some increased health. More health as a tank is always going to be helpful. I put 2 points in Indomitable. Again, I'm going to be the one initiating, I'm going to be the one tanking, so reducing my damage is going to be helpful. Put a point in Veteran Scars for some increased health, same reasons as I listed before. 1 point in Bladed Armor. Returning 6 damage to minions and monsters is just going to make your jungling that much faster, especially at the smaller camps like Wraiths and Wolves. I put I put 3 points in Initiator, which increases your movement speed when you're above 70%, which just makes your coming out for ganking and your chases a little bit easier. I'm going to put 1 point in Enlightenment to reduce my cooldown slightly. That's basically just a filler point. I'm going to end up with 1 point left over, and it was kind of the best place for it. I put 3 points in Honor Guard, again to reduce my damage, as I'm going to be tanking mostly. And I put 1 point in Juggernaut. Increases my health and gives me a little bit of tenacity to make chasing and ganking that much easier. Now in the utility tree, I go ahead and put 1 in Summoner's Insight. I always take Flash with my Jungle Maokai, and that's because if you can't quite get to somebody to initiate with the Twisted Advance, if you use the Flash with the Twisted Advance, you can always get there very easily. I then put 3 points in Expanded Mind. Maokai is kind of a mana whore, especially when you get to his ulti and it's constantly ticking down your mana. That little bit of mana regen will always be helpful. I put 4 points in Swiftness. Again, just makes your movement a little bit faster, your ganks a little bit easier, and also because I don't start with the boots as early as some people, that little bit of movement speed is really going to help. And the last thing I get for the 9th point in utility is Runic Affinity, which is going to make me have a 20% increased duration on the red, blue buffs, Baron buffs, all that stuff, which, because I'm jungling and I'm having buffs, is always going to be beneficial. So now let's go ahead and look at the runes that I use for jungling Maokai. These I found to be about the best runes possible. I take 3 ability power quintessences. Pretty much everything Maokai does is ability power based. His Smash, his Twisted Advance, and his Saplings. With 15 ability power, that makes clearing that Wraith camp in the beginning very easy and very quick. Without that 15 ability power, it would be nearly impossible. Pretty much everything else that I go is going to be defensive things for tanking. So I go Magic Resist per level on my blues. So 15 or 0.15 magic resist per level, so a total of 24 at level 18. I then go the attack speed on my marks or my reds. That actually works well with his passive because for the amount of spells that he uses and his attack, he gets to heal himself. And then I go for flat armor on my yellows or my seals. So all in all, with my runes, I'm going to be sitting at 24 magic resist at level 18, 15% attack speed, 13% armor, and 15% ability power. The last thing I'm going to leave you guys with is kind of my build order for my items for a generic game. Remember, as the initiator or the tank, you're always going to want to change your items depending on what sort of damage they're doing, if they're doing more magic or more physical. But I can give you a basic idea of what I tend to build, and you can always make adjustments accordingly. So let's go ahead and look at that. Okay, so the items that I normally get, I tend to start with Merc Treads. The Tenacity is always really helpful, as well as the Magic Resist. I'll also get a Shirelia's Revelry, the health regen, the mana regen, the cooldown reduction, and the activated ability with the movement speed buff is really helpful when initiating into a team fight or also escaping from a team fight. I usually grab a Randuin's Omen. The reason for the Randuin's Omen is because I like to get an early Heart of Gold, usually my second item after the boots and the Philo Stone. It gives you a good bit of health and the gold per 5. The Randuin Omen is just a good way to finish that item out. I really recommend that you get a Frozen Heart. It's one of the best items in the entire game. For Maokai, it's awesome. He gets some armor, mana regen, cooldown reduction, and the attack speed reduction is amazing. And considering that you're always going to be jumping in the middle of their entire team, that's always really helpful. I like to go a Banshee's Veil for my heavy magic resist item. Gives you a good bit of magic resist, a good bit of health, but the use on it is also really helpful, where you get that shield that'll occasionally deflect a spell. If you find that you're getting too much health and being cut down by a Blood Razor or a Kog'Maw or something like that, Force of Nature is equally as good. It's kind of, to each person's preference. Now your last item is kind of whatever you feel like. At this point you've probably got some awesome resistances going, you're pretty hefty, so I would suggest getting an AP item just to bolster your damage a little bit and make yourself a little bit more useful. For this I personally like Athene's Unholy Grail because it's going to give you ability power plus some resistance to magic, which is with my current build the only thing that I'm lacking a little bit on, plus some cooldown reduction and some mana regen. So that's pretty much what I like to build. That's pretty much how I like to jungle my Maokai, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. If you liked my video, thought it was at all helpful, leave some comments down below, or if you think there is something that I can improve for future videos, feel free to let me know. Thanks guys, have a great time gaming.